It's the last show of the year, and we have saved
Mhm.
the best for last. Marcia Davies,
Mhm.
for just a few more days, the COO of the Mortgage Bankers Association and the founder
Mhm.
of mPower. Marcia, we are just days away from your retirement, and I cannot thank you
Mhm.
enough for blessing my audience. There's a lot of people out here who respect, admire, and appreciate you. So thanks for spending a few minutes with me here on One on One.
Thank you, Greg, for inviting me. I'm glad that this is my last official podcast appearance of my career.
Oh my goodness. Well, let me
Yeah.
tell you, that's super meaningful. Thank you for telling me that. Uh, Over 4 decades in this
Hmm.
industry, man, it's been quite a run. Tell us
Hmm.
what kind of emotions you have at this time, knowing that the end is near of the work part of your journey.
Uh, First of all, I am so blessed to be able to retire. I know that not everybody is in the position to do that when they want to do it. So my husband and I are looking forward to traveling and doing a lot of that. But leaving the industry, you know, the best way I can explain it was I knew when I was ready to leave. And I've spent the last this past year working towards a transition plan for MBA so that it would continue to thrive and be a great organization. And I was able to make sure that people within the organization who deserved opportunity and were able to be elevated were as part of the process. So my current job is going to go away. There will not be another COO at the MBA. We have a new chief administrative officer and then two newly promoted senior vice presidents. So another reason to feel blessed is when you go out, people are really sad to see you go. And that's a good feeling, right? You don't want them all saying, oh God, she's finally leaving. And the people who deserve to be recognized and promoted were able to have that happen for them as well.
What is that feeling like when you know the end is coming? Like what made right now feel like it was right?
I think it was feeling like I've been through so many cycles. And if you think about it, I was at Freddie Mac. I started in this industry in 1984. And Freddie Mac wasn't even called Freddie Mac back then. It was called the Mortgage Corporation. It got branded as Freddie Mac while I was there, and part of the department that did that work. But it was just, and I reinvented myself 4 times for the 21 years I was at Freddie Mac, and I ended up in the government, and that was during the financial crisis, and that was a very interesting time to be in the government when the mortgage industry was, trying to recover from, a pretty hard time. And then I've spent the last 15 years at MBA. So I feel like I've seen a lot. I've been in a lot of departments. I've been in a lot of the um, disciplines that we have throughout, mortgage finance. And I thought, you know what? It's time. It's time for others who are going to be so excited about some of these responsibilities that I now feel like, I've done, and I've done them for a long time. It's time for others. And that's exactly what happened, Greg. The people at MBA who got additional responsibility are so excited. I know you're close to Laura Hopkins. She was one of the folks who she's taking a big chunk of one of my responsibilities. And not only is she so ready for it and so deserving of it, she is so excited. And that's what you want, right? You want that excitement that you had years ago when you stepped in and started doing some of that work. So
Yeah,
that's
so
what
I
it
want to.
feels like.
Yeah, well, it's so exciting. Where are the places you're most excited to travel to?
So if people if people were paying attention this year at our open stores, our foundation, we do fundraisers, and I was bidding on trips like it was nobody's business. So my husband and another couple, some friends of ours, were going to Italy in September, and part of that trip was something I won at one of the ODF auctions, and then we're going to ring in 2027 in Maui, with another group of friends. Another trip I bought at a charity auction. So
Good, cool.
yeah. And we do
That's
go,
great.
I know we go down to Florida. We always go to Palm Beach with friends. So that will be March. And we're going to Arizona in February. So yeah, we're going to be busy traveling.
Your frequent flyer miles are about to take another step here. So much to cover
Yes.
here. Current
Hmm.
President Bob Brooksmint said,
Hmm.
among your many, many accomplishments, that your most vital contribution to the NBA was your leadership in restoring financial stability to the
Hmm.
association.
Hmm.
Most of us don't know about those times. I
Hmm.
know I don't know about those times.
Hmm.
So take us back to that window of time for the
Hmm.
NBA, what it was like and how you came through it.
So when I started on May 1st, 2011 at the NBA, and I went in with Dave Stevens, and we learned very quickly that the association didn't have reserves, that they had years before we got there had purchased a building, and then the housing and real estate crisis happened, and they had a loan that was strangling the association, as well as the fact that they had, when Dave and I came in, they had recently cut about, I think, 30 or 40% of the staff. And so we knew we had a big job ahead of us. And so we worked very hard that first. So from 2011 through 2012, we worked to right size the organization's financials. So, in other words, how can we get more members to get engaged? How can we look at this loan that the association had and get that debt off of our backs? And I have to say, those first 18 months were hard. We were really working at it. And our members not only came back in, they came back in really re-energized and re-engaged. And I'm happy to say that the association is in such strong financial position now. And we have such a strong staff, and we've rebuilt that staff, over these last, decade or more. And so it's just in a great place to continue to thrive and get stronger.
Yeah, of course, we were coming out of the financial crisis then. I mean,
Hmm.
we're just trying to figure out what the heck happened to us.
Right.
What do you think? Why do you think you were successful at turning the corner? I mean, that sounds like an amazing albatross around the neck of the organization. Like, what was that thing,
Right.
that ingredient? I mean, Dave Stevens, first of all, was so
Hmm.
dynamic, right? So the
Hmm.
combination of you two, I would have just loved to have seen you two in
Hmm.
action. Tell us how you were able, like, what was the ingredient that allowed you to be able to bring it back together?
So Dave and I literally started on the same day, and it was the first day of MBA secondary that year. So our first day at work was in New York City in the Marriott. And we spent that entire time talking to members, talking to the folks within our member organizations. So we were talking to as many CEOs or senior leaders, and then we were talking to some of the practitioners, trying to understand what they value from the association, what they felt was missing. And we took that information as a foundation in order to work through bringing them back the value proposition that they so desperately wanted, and the association so desperately needed. Right? You need, if you look at our 990s, MBA makes its money from membership dues and profitability of our conferences. And so if you can bring those things back into the mix, it will be a great way to bring your financials back. And I retooled. I happen to have experience in conferences, and I had worked for another trade association very early on in my career. And so I worked hand in hand with the meetings team and with their lead, Elaine Howard, and we completely started changing the way that some of our biggest conferences looked and the value proposition we had for our members. And so it all started to come together quite nicely.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Your events are epic, in particular annual.
Yes.
That is one you just cannot miss. As I look at all the accomplishments, and you've got so many, shortly after you got there, a few years later, you started
Hmm.
mPower, and
Yeah.
you're leaving quite a legacy there. And I know Dave Stevens was instrumental in encouraging you to do
Hmm.
that. As you look back now, 11 plus years later, talk about
Hmm.
mPower and the state you're leaving it in, and
Hmm.
then the second part to that question: how far have we come? How much more work is there to
Right.
do?
I'll answer that last one first. We still have a lot of work to do. But I will tell you, we have come a long way. And what started out, and I know I've talked about this before on your podcast, what started out as an idea just for women to not only get to know each other, but be able to network and connect, blew up into something much, much more. And that just means that there was a need there, and our members and the women in this industry really showed up to make mPower what it is today. And it Dave was able to give me what I'm going to call, he was my boss, give me permission in my job to do whatever I needed to do to take it to a level that I wanted it to be at. And he helped me see that it was going to be much bigger than I had envisioned. So, yeah, he was there right by my side. And I'll never forget the first all day Empowering You Summit. He opened it up and then he left because he thought, this is for women. And I said, well, our male allies are allowed to be here as well. So, he actually started attending, and he continued to be amazed at the number of women that kept showing up and the number of men that were coming in. And so, yeah, he kept just telling me, do more, do whatever you think you need to do. And, that's pretty freeing for, an employee to be able to do that.
What are some of the memories you're going to take with you about mPower? What are you most proud of?
What I'm most proud of is the community, the number of women that stay engaged, the number of women that show up to support each other, that have supported me and the MBA. Um, I have had so many amazing speakers. If you would have told me my last time on stage was interviewing Maria Shriver, who was just such a fantastic interview. And days before that, I interviewed Sharon Stone, or that Bob would flirt with Rita Moreno backstage, and we still joke because he has a crush on her. These are things that happened through all the different things that I got to experience through Empower, and I got to see so many powerful women in all stages of their career take the stage and talk about their stories or interview somebody and another senior leader. And we've had men on stage as well about what we need to do, the impact, what holds us back, what are our blind sides, right? And we're making progress. It's just, as you can tell, it's, if you read Women in the Workplace study, it's stalling and sliding back a little bit. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, Bob is very charming. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
people can,
Uh-huh.
people look at someone that charming and they probably think he likes them all. I mean, he is a great leader and very charismatic and cares deeply about the industry. So,
Yeah.
um, you know,
Rita Moreno, she is very charming. And in person, she turns it on. Let me tell you, she's turned 93, I think. It's in the beginning of December. When I interviewed her 2 years ago, she was already doing three movies simultaneously. And so it was, I want to be like that. She was 91 at the time. When I'm 91, I want to be like that, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Marcia, in the almost 15 years that you've been
Hmm.
at the NBA, uh, can you shed light on a turning point for you or a moment where, you thought, you know what, maybe this isn't for me anymore, or maybe, it's just the fight is too much or whatever. Like, I don't mean to focus on low moments, but we can
Hmm.
learn so much from those
Hmm.
times, right? I mean, overcoming whatever that moment was like for you, where there was adversity, and with you don't have to go into as much detail as you want, but if you could cite that, and then give some inspiration to those others out there that
Hmm.
maybe have gone through challenges in their own work environment, that have reached their own crossroad.
Right. Well, first of all, at MBA, I never had that feeling like it was too much. I mean, if I didn't have it in those first 18 months, there's nothing, there's nothing you can throw at me after that. But for me, the biggest challenge or obstacle I had to overcome was when Dave got cancer. And we didn't know what his treatment was going to be. We didn't know his level of engagement. We so wanted him to focus only on his health and getting better. And that was at a time when the hedge funds were really going after Dave personally because his position on the GSEs and being in conservatorship. And they had, I'm just going to call it an anti Dave Stevens campaign. And I got some of the people who I knew could get to the folks who were doing that. And I had them come into the office and I basically told them to knock it off, that they can pick it up after we know what Dave's health is going to be. But while he's doing his treatment, he really can't be stressed out, and nothing stresses him out more than what they're putting on. Back then it was called Twitter, or what they're, throwing up on their websites, et cetera. And they did that. They went after our incoming chair was Rodrigo Lopez. And so they turned on, the negative campaign to Rodrigo. And Rodrigo's like, I can take it, bring it on, type of thing. But I would say that was the biggest challenge, was how to shut down kind of that negative, nasty underbelly that can take place when you've got two sides that want to try to influence the outcome of something. And the underbelly in DC can be pretty complicated and very strategic, I will say. So I was just glad I had the relationships where I could get to the right people for them to take the focus off Dave while he was dealing with his health. And you can still put it on MBA, just go after our chair. Don't go don't go
Yeah.
after our CEO who's in, fighting for his life, literally.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Washington, and things can be
Hmm.
challenging there. And we're a year, for the most part,
Hmm.
approaching a year under this new administration. I'd
Hmm.
love for you to give us a lens on what it's like to have to put in so much work with an administration, only to have to completely revamp and reinvent
Hmm.
relationships in some instances, when it turns from red to blue, or it turns from blue to red.
Hmm. Hmm.
How much of a dynamic is that?
Well, as you know, MBA is bipartisan.
Of
So
course.
we
Yeah.
keep relationships with both sides of the aisle, no matter, who's got House, who's got Senate, who's got White House. And so it's been, and I've watched it through several transitions at this point in time. And I have to give kudos to our lobbying team and Bill Kilmer for the way he prepares and keeps everyone prepared for no matter who's going to win, whether it's a midterm or, our presidential election. And it is really seamless. Now, I will say, when I came in with Dave, it was a Democratic administration, and that was his, right? That's who he worked with and worked for. So it was easy to navigate when you actually had somebody in the chair that used to be the FHA commissioner, because he still had all of those relationships. But that did not change the minute that it turned. And he, like Bob, they're charming and they know that both sides are important. And so they try to make as many strong contacts and friendships and relationships that they can with both sides of the aisle.
Some administrations are more friendly than others, though,
Correct.
right? I mean, you can't
Mhm.
like Rohit Chopra, was the director of the CFPB. I mean, I know you had
Mhm.
open lines of communication, but um, it's just I know it's challenging. I won't ask you any questions about him, but I do have a question.
But
Or go ahead, please.
I will tell you, we had other directors, right, of the CFPB that were also Republican that we didn't have. So I don't think it's an administrative, the decision of who's in the administration or which party. It's the person in that job and how they choose to approach it, right, and
Yeah,
approach that job. So that's all I'll say on that, because you know whoever our political party is, you or I or anybody else, will still show up and do a job the way we think it needs to be done. And sometimes
yeah.
that may.
I guess
Hmm.
what I'm saying is the connective tissue. They're not all
Hmm.
made alike, and so uh, this is my impression from talking to people and watching things
Hmm.
unfold. You have some administrations, and I think there's some incredible Democratic administrations that really want to embrace housing, that want to
Hmm.
come and meet with you, and then there's some that don't. And then the same
Right.
thing with
Right.
Republicans. That was the point that I was trying to get to. But
Right.
I had a post that and I want to know your thoughts on this. Um, Posted something like it dawned on me a couple of weeks ago. Like you see President Trump, and when he wants to talk about tech, he invites all the heavyweight tech people in.
Hmm.
When he wants to talk about banking, you see Jamie Dimon go in.
Hmm.
Like when you want to talk about housing, like what about the idea of Bob Brooksmith and the president in the Oval Office, like talking like to me, and this is what I wrote about, like the message that would send to the country that affordability is really important. You couldn't have a more instrumental, important,
Hmm.
powerful figure than Bob Brooksmith. Would you have any thoughts on that at all?
Well, he's been in a lot of places, including NEC and Treasury, and so the fact that the president isn't meeting with the association or with our members doesn't mean that his team and a lot of the people in his cabinet aren't. And I can tell you they are. And they have had listening sessions. And so there are conversations that are going on. When it will raise to the president wanting to meet with it, it may or may not. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. And but I will say there have been a lot of listening sessions where we have been invited to. We've been the first invited. And that's one thing I think that is important. They may have 3 listening sessions. We're in the first, we're with a small handful of others, and then discussions flow from there. So a lot of times you won't hear that or see that in an MBA communication because, and I know this from my experience when I was at HUD, the last thing you want is to have a meeting where you're trying to work through an issue and then somebody's tweeting about it or quoting from it, and you're in the middle of trying to figure something out. They want to get the work done. And, let's talk about the sausage making or make the announcement when it's time, but not in the middle as you're trying to figure things out.
Yeah, that makes great sense. Thanks for that.
Hmm.
How would you put into organize like the state of housing that you're leaving now and how it's kind of evolved in your 4 decades? That's a lot. That's a big question, I know,
I
but like,
know it is a big question. So at Freddie Mac, I was there before they were regulated. I was there when they went public. I was there when they had the reinstatement. I was there when they had to close down the multifamily portfolio. So there are a lot of different cycles and a lot of different things to see. And I told you when I was at HUD, it was during the housing crisis. There's a lot to be seen there. And then at MBA, you kind of get to see it all the different components come in and play out. And so I think you have the right people within, you know, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, FHA, if they get, Frank Cassidy confirmed, and if Joe Gormley gets confirmed at Ginnie Mae, all willing to roll up their sleeves and keep working on these important policies and legislative issues that we need passed. So that's the beauty, Greg, of I think no matter what cycle we're in, you have people at whether it's MBA or ABA or any of the other trades still working on what's going to be best for the industry and still working with their members to try to make sure we're doing the most important, right? The prioritization, because you may not be able to get everything on the list. You may not get somebody to pay attention to. So I have a higher respect for that now after my time at MBA than I ever have. And with the way things in this administration are going, we all should have a higher respect for how hard we're working to get the policies right and moving forward.
Yeah.
If that
Well,
answers your question.
yeah, that was a great answer. Right? Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
You mentioned you've been through several cycles, and
Hmm.
I've been in the business now, not quite as long as you, but I'm approaching 30 years somehow. Time does definitely
Hmm.
fly.
It does.
Um, and each of these moments, that you can go back to 9/11 or the
Hmm.
financial crisis or
Hmm.
Dodd-Frank or COVID, like they all feel like this moment where we're never going to recover or things are going to be changed materially
Hmm.
forever. This is another one of those moments, right, with technology and AI and now the
Right.
race for servicing to partner with
Hmm.
IMBs to create this juggernaut of a flywheel. I would love your opinion on, is this too going to pass, or are we really at an inflection point where something is going to change, where the changes are going to be substantial and people are going to have to relook at how they go about doing business?
So I think the last, I'm going to use decade, right? Or we can even cut it back 5 years. I think you've seen the M&A that has gone on, especially in the last 3 years, maybe going on 4 now. So the industry has already changed a lot, right? Our lenders are, getting bought by others. Some of the big banks have stepped away from mortgage lending, right? So there's a lot that's already taken place. And I think that will continue until, it depends on who you talk to. Is the housing supply, do we still have one, or are we over it, right? Because some people are saying, well, houses are sitting on the market longer now. And some are saying it's because now they're priced out of the market. But do we have enough homes for the loans that we are able to make, right? So that's one, because we have lenders ready to make them, but is the volume going to be there? And depending on who you talk to, they'll say, yes, it's correcting, or we've got a ways to go on that. And I think we'll have fewer, right? We'll have fewer people making mortgages because we're already seeing that trend. And we saw some of it, after the great financial crisis, right? We saw fewer lenders, but then they expanded again. So is that going to be a cycle we'll see after we get through these tough years? Perhaps, but I don't know how supply will come into that.
What did you
And
think
that's
you
as
do?
deep as I go, because the rest goes to Mike Frantantoni.
I got it. And he's
Yeah.
amazing too.
Yes.
What did you when you were a young lady? When
Hmm.
you were a little girl, like what were some of your dreams? What did you think you'd be doing?
Well, I grew up on a farm in New Jersey, Greg. So there weren't, having a career was not something that I thought of, let alone a career in mortgage finance. And so I just thought I would work, get married, and have some kids. Now, I've done those things. I've just done them very differently than I thought I would do them. And I credit that probably because I left New Jersey when I was young. I left New Jersey at 20 to take a job down here in Washington, D.C., because my sister was living in Washington, D.C., and she loved it. And I think that's what turned my ambition on, because I wasn't exposed to a lot of that growing up. When you grow up on a farm and the closest playmate you have is half a mile or a mile away, and it's not like what we do for our kids now. It's like, hey, I want to go play with Sally, and my father and mother will go, well, I'm not driving anywhere right now, so no, you're not going to go play with Sally. We'd be like, okay, let me put down what I'm doing and drive you to Sally's house, right? So it was a very different upbringing.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that about you,
Hmm.
and look how much you've accomplished from
Hmm.
the days when you were on that farm in New Jersey. Have you emotionally like thought about what that last day walking through the NBA doors is going to be like? How do you think you'll handle a moment like this?
Well, I got a little preview at annual. Bill Cosgrove was so thoughtful and generous. He threw a little retirement party for me. And I got to see probably 150 members who came, and former officers and MBA staff who came to wish me well. So I am really grateful because I got a chance to say goodbye to a lot of these members were customers when I was at Freddie Mac. So we've known each other for decades. And and in January, I'll get to say goodbye to everybody at MBA, because I mentioned earlier I had an unexpected hip replacement 2 weeks ago. So that kiboshed my retirement party in December. So they've moved it to January. What it will feel like, Greg, when you're ready, you're just happy. I'm going to miss all those people, but so many of us are friends and we keep in touch. I know I'll see them again, but it's my time. I'm ready.
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to end this with you speaking directly to the women in our industry.
Mhm.
What are some things you want them to know?
I want them to know that we walk the walk, right? You reach down and you pull another woman up when you're in a leadership position and have the ability. Really look around you and help elevate women. And that's a bet you can count on each and every time, because women work hard. We are great at giving our experiences and showing up in a way that is not only confident, but we show up in a way that says, we can do it, we can get it done. And when you put women together, watch out, because they're unstoppable.
And to the men?
To the men, just keep supporting women, stop interrupting women. Women are interrupted 3 times more than men in meetings. So I would say to anybody, just pay attention to that and continue to work side by side with your colleagues that are, obviously male and female, but just really see people. Sometimes there are women in your organization who think the good job they're doing, and they may not advocate for themselves. So look around and see if there's somebody there that you think deserves the recognition so that they can rise up as well.
Mm, some great stuff. I've enjoyed getting to know you. I really appreciate you,
Thank you.
joining us as we approach Christmas here, just a couple of days away. Wish you the best of luck, speedy recovery
Thank you.
on your hip replacement, and it would be great
Thanks.
to keep in touch with you.
Yeah.
In the future here, and I know you'll be in touch with everybody. You're not going to
Yes.
disappear, that's for sure.
I will not disappear. I promise you. You might see me at a conference or two. You never know.
I know. Happy holidays. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Take care. Enjoy the rest of
Take
your week,
care.
everyone.
Thanks.